Heidi. Jeg jobber som domeneleder for kreativ og media, som heter Kantar, som egentlig handler om kommunikasjon. Og så er dagens agenda her i dag. Jeg skal snakke litt om hva vi egentlig mener med dette begrepet kraftfull kreativitet, som er tittelen på seminaret i dag. Så skal jeg ta dere med på noen hemmeligheter blant de som ikke klarer å få til kraftfull kreativitet. And then we also have a special guest here today, Duncan from our creative team. You want to say a few words?
Hi everyone. Well, thank you for coming for a start. I'm delighted to be here. I already feel at home actually because these chairs are exactly what we have in my living room or my dining room at home. But yeah, now I've been with Kantar for actually tomorrow is my 29th anniversary of working at Kantar. So I've lived in the UK, worked in the States, now based in Frankfurt, and I've worked on brand stuff, media stuff, digital stuff, but now my current role is overseeing our creative products and learnings globally. So hopefully we can have a fun day, because it's always more fun talking about ads and creativity than any other piece of the Kantar puzzle. So I think we're all going to have a good time.
So very excited to have Duncan here today. So I'm going to switch a bit between English and Norwegian. I'm going back to Norwegian now. Så innsikt er jo kjernen i alt det vi driver med i Kantar, så vi har selvfølgelig med en del om innsikten som kan hjelpe deg med å styrke kreativ kvalitet på slutten. Og så satt det også litt tid til Q&A, spørsmål og svar. Men først, hvordan kan vi i Kantar egentlig snakke så veldig mye om kraftfull kreativitet? Vi tester faktisk 13 000 reklamer i året med våre verktøy for pretesting. Og det er faktisk over 1 reklame i timen, som jeg egentlig synes er litt sykt å tenke på. Men det gjør at vi har en database med 250 000 reklamer i, så vi gir oss veldig mye læring om hvordan reklame virker, hva som fungerer og ikke fungerer. Skal vi se hva som ikke fungerer her nå?
Bra fyr.
Skru sånn. Ja, sikkert den er bak jakka. Ja, og den databasen med 250 000 pluss reklamer har vi også brukt til å lage et AI-verktøy for å evaluere reklamer, som heter Link AI, som Duncan kommer litt inn på senere. Kanskje det er jakka mi? Skifte verktøy. Ok, prøver dette. Hvert år så gjennomfører vi også Kantar Creative Effectiveness Awards, hvor vi kårer de mest kreative og effektive reklamene fra året som har gått, som er testet gjennom våre verktøy. Så kan jeg vise en del eksempler fra denne kåringen i dag. Hva mener vi med kraftfull kreativitet? Med det så mener vi sterke reklamer som oppnår en effekt for merkevaren. Vi vet at kraftfulle reklamer, de skaper oppmerksomhet og engasjement for merket. De gjør salg på kort sikt, og styrker merkevaren og genererer etterspørsel for fremtiden. Så det som er veldig essensielt her er at det er merkevaren som står i sentrum, og at kreativiteten er knyttet til merkevaren for å få den effekten. Hvorfor er jeg så opptatt av kreativitet? Våre analyser viser at kreativ kvalitet er den viktigste enkeltfaktoren for å oppnå oppmerksomhet og eksponering for merkevaren. Så det vil jo si at det er vanskelig å drive den eksponeringen uten reklame med sterk kreativ kvalitet. Så ser vi også her at den andre halvparten her, det er jo rettet mot mediafaktorer, som også er veldig viktig å forstå, og som vi også er veldig opptatt av. Men det må jeg nesten kanskje ta i et annet seminar, for i dag skal vi fokusere på kreativ kvalitet. Så kommer første av mange eksempler på kraftfull kreativitet. Da starter vi med den beste av de beste. Det er årets vinner i Kantar Creative Effectiveness Awards, og det er fastfood-kjeden KFC med reklame fra Frankrike. Så en veldig engasjerende reklame som er sannsynlig til å skape salg på kort sikt og drive merkevare på lang sikt. Kan vi se det.
Put some hot sauce on it, too hot for you. Riding with my homies in the middle of the night, almost midnight, like a sticking up too high, heavy laughing, baby shouting, spitting eyes, getting hungry, pull up at the traffic lights. Make it crispy, is it tender, is it hard, make it tasty. Been waiting for this to live, make it crusty. Is that really all you got? Put some hot sauce on it, too hot for you. Sweet and salty for the fish. Crispy, is it tender, is it hard, make it tasty, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to hand over to Duncan, who will take us through creative effectiveness in the age of AI.
Thank you very much, Heidi. Okay, so I've been eating that too, that's right. Actually, I'm mainly going to be speaking about chocolate and art today, but there will be a little bit about creative effectiveness and a bit about AI in here as well. So, how are we going to do this? First of all, we're going to talk about 3 challenges and I think also 3 major opportunities in the age of AI. The first challenge we're going to talk about is this always increasing challenge of cutting through the clutter. There's media fragmentation, more media channels, more assets, more ads out there than ever before, is raising the creative bar all the time. It's harder and harder than ever to actually get people to notice your ads. More of your ads are going into skippable formats than they ever used to. So that changes the equation in terms of how you can how well your ads will work. And so there's a lot of talk about why you need to capture and retain attention. So we'll talk about that challenge first. Then we'll talk about this other challenge of you've got loads more ads and assets because of the massive digitization of media. How do you measure all of those in the most efficient, productive way? And AI can really help there, but it does require us to think very differently about how we measure and evaluate our creative campaigns. And finally, we'll get into the more sort of future-focused stuff, the generative AI, the completely new ways of working, not just by the larger scale of assets that need to be tested, but also the way that generative AI can help us develop campaigns, come up with new ideas, and also assess ads and improve them in new and exciting ways. That's the plan. Let's go through this and kick off with reminding ourselves first of all about some fundamentals. So even though you need to do new things and elevate your ads to higher levels to cut through the clutter, there are some fundamental things that are really important. First of all, creative quality matters. So we're here to just give you the equipment and the argument of why you need to be elevating your creative effectiveness. Creative quality, as measured by Kantar within our link studies, is a combination of some short-term sales effectiveness measures and some longer-term brand building metrics. We've gone to the trouble of taking that data from our link ad testing database, and I worked with some people at Walk who've got a marvellous return on marketing investment data set. They take all the papers that get submitted to the various effectiveness awards, categorise them and systematically build this database out. So I worked with Walk to build that connection, and we found if you look at the ads that are in the bottom third on Kantar creative quality scores versus the top third are about 4 times more likely to increase generate 4 times more ROMI profit, that's return on marketing investment profit, as a result from all that mixed modelling data. So that's quite strong evidence that creative quality matters, and as measured by Kantar. The next thing, though, is when you actually ask marketeers around the world, of the things that you can do to try and improve your profitability, your absolute amount of profit now, which are the things you should be focusing your efforts on. And creative quality is up there, but it's trumped by the media perspective of, well, surely actually we can probably optimise our campaigns more if we get the right channels mix. Maybe if we get the brand versus performance building ratio right, maybe we're 80-20 brand performance, maybe if we were 50-50 that would change everything. Or maybe if we just shifted our target audience from young people to slightly older people, that could actually be the thing that unlocks more profit. So creative quality is only number 4 when you ask global marketeers. This was a survey we did in 2021. But so I worked with a guy called Paul Dyson, who's a bit of a guru in the world of econometrics. He's published over many years absolute profitability drivers analysis, and his data is these green blobs that are on here. He says that by far and away the biggest factor that drives overall profitability is brand size. So, which instinctively makes sense. The bigger your brand is, spend the same amount of money as a small brand does on advertising, you're going to get a much, much bigger return. That's really true, but very difficult to change, right? If you're a big brand, you celebrate. If you're a small brand, you think, oh, maybe let's not bother with advertising then. So that's hard to change. But this one is completely in your control. And this is the second biggest driver. And his 12 times multiplier is bigger than our 4 times, because I was just talking about the top third versus the bottom third. He's looked at the best ads and the worst ads within his mixed models, and he's isolated the fact that creative quality is far and away the biggest factor that drives profit. So all these other things, actually modifying your audience might improve things a bit. Getting the brand building balance right is important, but not. That can double your effectiveness, but it can't multiply it by 12. So, that's why I'm very happy to be in the creative seat at Kantar, because I think creative quality matters, and we've got good evidence that it does. Okay, so we're all here. You've all showed up because you think creative matters as well, so that's good. The age of AI is changing a lot of things, but it doesn't change the fundamentals about what advertising needs to do. Right, so this is the Kantar narrative. I'm sure you may have your own in-house versions, or you may have bought into other versions, but we say that you need to capture attention first with emotional engagement and make sure that engagement is linked to your brand, which is easily said and very difficult to do. Then we talk about you need to build meaningfully different associations, and of the two, the difference is the thing that makes the difference. If you build a positioning and work on that over time, that's the thing that really drives your long-term brand equity and build shareholder value. And then you need to do something within your ads to drive people to do something in the short term, go buy or go explore or learn more. So you do need to be persuasive, but you also need to keep that long-term goal of building your equity in mind. That's our framework. It works. That has remained unchanged for more than 25 years now. So that's cool. But as I said, the creative bar is being raised all the time. So staying on top of topical trends is not unimportant. It's not, chasing trends is not unimportant, because you do need to be culturally relevant all of the time. Otherwise, you won't connect with consumers. And so when we do these Creative Effectiveness Awards that Heidi mentioned, every year we talk about the latest and greatest trends in the ads that are not just doing okay, but are really standing out from the crowd. So these are our 5 global trends from last year, which we will update again in May, June of next year. And these tend to be driven by things that you can all personally relate to. So we've all struggled a bit through COVID, and the world's quite depressing with all the number of wars blowing up. So it's not surprising that advertising that manages to deliver some sort of escapism is suddenly a bit more popular, and we'll see an example of that in Heidi's session later on. Emotion has become even more important. It's always been an incredibly important driver in effectiveness, but we're seeing the ones that really go hard for the emotional, tugging at your heartstrings type response have done it particularly well of late. With life seeming a little bit overwhelming, and obviously new apps appearing all the while, new things to learn. Actually, the brands that cut through that, and rather than bamboozling you, offer something that makes your life simpler, are really, really well respected and liked. I think purpose has been a big theme at Cannes for many years and recently, and that's the ads that do something that genuinely makes things better, that don't just do tokenist greenwashing types claims, but actually genuinely have something to offer in that space, or do inclusion and diversity in a fun, interesting, cool way, cut through. And one of our themes of late has been that there was a sort of phase of humour in advertising, that the usage of it has been tailing off. So we saw a kind of long-term decline in the number of ads that had humour in them over the last 5 to 10 years. And it was a real phase of sad advertising, where to win an award at Cannes you needed to be really depressing. And that kind of drove this sort of, we've got to be purposeful and worthy. And it just was getting too depressing by half, and we've just seen a bit of hopefully that trend's bottomed out, because we're seeing a bit of a return to people actually thinking that humour is actually okay again, and so that's fun. We did some separate analysis for the Nordics, because those global trends do apply pretty much everywhere, but there were a couple of things that really seem to stand out within the Nordics winners, and you'll see a few of these today. Music was an additional incremental standout element, as well as this idea of showing the crave, because TikTok has its trends and things blow up as viral hits, but if you can get some kind of craving element into your ad, that whether it doesn't have to be social media viral element, but it can be something that demonstrates why your brand is an addictive, fun crave, that also seems to be working quite well in the Nordics at the moment. So we'll show some examples of that today, because showing ads is always fun. I wish I could take you through all these. We have already presented the Nordic Creative Effectiveness Awards and the Norwegian one as well. So I'm only going to show you one of these amazing ads. I enjoyed watching them all. I chose, because again, I'm a sucker for chocolate and a sucker for emotional story, and I also live in Germany, so I'm a little bit away from my home. I decided we should all have a quick look at Freya's beautiful ad, which captures the global idea of escapism a little bit, the global idea of touching your soul, but also this Nordic idea of showing the crave.
Sophie.
Hi.
There's a package for you.
Mamma.
What is that?
Ett litet stycke Norge. Just like home. You really have to try this.
Freya, skape glede.
It creates joy indeed. So that was a new one for me, but I enjoyed trying that out over the weekend, just so I could say that I understand how nice Freya chocolate tastes. And I know there's some other people from other chocolate brands here today. So, but we love all our chocolate clients. Again, and not to obsess on the chocolate theme too much, and not to obsess on Mondelez, although they are a wonderful client. I did want to share this other global example of how they haven't just got to success overnight. They've actually worked really hard to deliver their long-term success. So if you see Cadbury IPA Effectiveness Award-winning case studies, you will realise that was the end of a very long journey. And we've at Kantar very proud partners of Mondelez, and particularly this campaign. I'm not going to go through all the short-term and long-term successes they've achieved. I just wanted to make the point that they took quite a big change of tack a few years ago to embrace this new glass and a half in everyone. So they took away from the brand, if you like, to putting their statement of their big idea was something that everyone could be a part of. And that was not something they came up with quickly and then zoomed straight into executional development. They did lots and lots of big idea testing to get that creative expression honed before they moved into any executional work. And we were involved in several stages of iterative work. And as they got early stage ideas, storyboards, then animatics, and then finished films, we were involved in a very long development process to help them get the campaign rolling. And now it's rolling. Almost every execution is a hit, and you're into executional optimization. But that they spent a long time getting that expression perfectly right. So now it wasn't too much of a surprise when they were the most effective Christmas ad in the UK last year with this, because they've got those strong underpinnings. But what AI is allowing us to do on top of this, when we come in at the executional level, is to diagnose ads in new and exciting ways. So I think we'll talk a bit about our facial coding technology later. This line under the bottom here is this emotional engagement. You need to have emotional engagement. You need to build it through an ad. This one does this fantastically well. But what we've also done is taken two kinds of AI, because the facial coding is an AI-based technology based on observed human behavior through an ad. But this overlay at the top here is not from observing humans, because it's actually quite costly to do eye tracking. So we're using predictive AI eye tracking in our surveys now to understand where people are most likely to be looking. So you can overlay consumer responses with where they're probably looking. You could pay for us to do that with observing eye tracking in the study as well, but that would cost a whole lot more. So this is a pragmatic way of getting more insight for your dollars or krona. And it looks like this when you pull the two together, and you can see how the character gets a lot of attention, but the brand gets enough attention that the branding comes through fantastically well as well.
What if you could send free chocolate in secret to someone special? Maybe that friend who always makes you laugh? Or just someone that needs a little lift? With Cadbury Secret Santa, you can send free chocolate secretly from a poster. Like this one, and this one. I'll be popping up all over the country. Look out for a poster near you.
So yeah, that was the winner last year. And if you're interested in how the UK Christmas campaigns is doing this year, we're putting a whole load of testing data out about those ads at the moment. So there's lots of free insights to be had about which are the ads that are hitting the mark in the UK in 2023 as well. Okay, so that's our first challenge, is making sure that you're capturing attention via emotional engagement. The second one is about this idea that you've now not just got one ad you need to get perfect at Christmas, you've got about 1,000 ads that you need to get right all throughout the year. And this is where AI-based testing is really transformational for us. We've had Link for, as I said, well over 25 years now. But in the last 3 or 4 years, we've developed this thing called Link AI. I'll talk about in a second. But AI-based predictions, just uploading your ad, getting a prediction out, is enabling people to test at a vastly different scale, because no survey required, no costs of talking to people, and just running things through a machine algorithm. You can get loads more insight out. And so all of a sudden, rather than just focusing on testing, you can now go earlier and at a much bigger scale, and you can also push way more data into later stages. So it really blows out the number of places you can put creative insights. And right now, the gaps that we're seeing as people are, because they've got loads of ads to test, they're either deciding not to bother testing anything, or they're using click data, which is fine if your goal is click, but unlikely to be the right metric if you're trying to build your brand, or just testing one in 20 ads. And we believe that AI can plug lots and lots of gaps for lots and lots of brands. We're doing lots of meta-analysis and benchmarking, helping clients not just test their own ads, but also test competitors, getting results in quicker when there's a real hurry. We're pushing things into optimization programs. So even once the campaign's starting to go live, you can still, even if you've decided what the ads are, you can't make them any better. You can still screen and upweight and downweight your media spend. You can get into more markets than ever before. You can do ads that you wouldn't want to test with consumers because it's so secure that you don't want anyone to know about your new feature. And you can plug it into mixed models. So it's, in our case, we know it's accurate because we've got a massive training data set. The ads, the 250,000 ads have been used as the training data set for our AI product. Correlations of 0.8 and 0.9, good validations of the predictions based on 20,000 features we suck out of the ad, fed into this AI model, do a really good job of predicting the likely effectiveness on the same metrics that you care about. Will it cut through? Will it build my brand? And will it be persuasive? So for us, it looks like this in your dashboards. Once you upload the ad, 15 minutes later, you get your dashboard back. And again, it's a fraction of the price of running a survey. So this is quite tempting. And these numbers are never going to be perfect. They're never going to understand everything. The machines don't yet know humour. They don't yet know puns. They don't yet know every cultural reference you'll have. But they are getting increasingly smart. So we most recently added in a feature to recognise celebrities. And not just to recognise celebrities. So the old model just knew there was a bloke in the ad. It didn't know it was George Clooney. So we've added in that, so it knows there's a celebrity. It also knows how popular George Clooney is, which is kind of helpful, because that is another upweight. And then it knows that there's actually a massive relationship between George Clooney and the brand Nespresso. So a George Clooney featuring in an Nespresso ad is a sudden brand building boost, whereas if George Clooney just showed up in an ad for Volvo, then it might not have the same effect. So those factors and all these new sort of iterations are being added into the AI model over time. So it's a smart model getting smarter. Google ran 11,000 ads through Link AI because they have this. How many of you have heard of the Google ABCD framework? It's their framework for creative effectiveness. So you've got to make sure that you again capture attention, brand it well, and then connect and direct people somewhere. So they have this framework. They wanted to validate that ads that adhered to the ABCD framework on YouTube did better. They gave us 11,000 ads. We proved that framework of theirs fundamentally works on the outcome metrics that you care about, whether it is likely to, if you do those ABCD things, will I capture attention? Will I build my brand and for the short and long term? So that was, again, if they'd have come to us with that, 3 or 4 years ago, we would have said, we could test 100 for you, but 11,000 ads now is easily doable. Unilever have assigned a proportion, not a massive proportion in the grand scheme of things, but a proportion of their advertising budget is now going on AI testing. But that smallish proportion has literally doubled the number of ads they can test all around the world. And they're using it to expand to smaller campaigns, particularly into the digital space, to plug gaps between the ads that they could test with their original survey-based approach. And that's that's expanding all the time. So the conversations we're having then for next year about how they can increase that proportion even more. So I think that they've been one of our early adopters and a great partner for us for many years. But the scale they can deliver at with AI is totally different. Coke have come to us, and the way they work with us with AI testing is it helps them across markets because they have many campaigns. Their aspiration is to have as few global campaigns as possible running in as many markets as possible. And there's the permanent global local kind of debate in Coke of whether this is a relevant campaign for an individual market. They've never been able to test a core new idea in more than a handful of countries. This allows them to test an ad via survey in 2 or 3 countries and then run it through AI to see whether it will work in the other 35 that we can do for with the AI-based product. And again, that could work here in the Nordics as well. You could do survey in Norway and AI predictions into the other 3 Nordic countries. So that's our second chapter. So traditional standard AI is already changing the game dramatically in terms of how you can improve your creative quality at scale. But as we move into our third chapter here, good researchers, we know we should never stop exploring. So this was me at the weekend learning about monks. What are they called? The monstrous ones. The monumentals. Is that right? Yeah. And this was the one that caught my eye more than any other in that vast hall in the new Monk Museum. So these children here exploring, called the I think it's got a different name when it's if you go to the university, right? So in the university it's called the alma mater. Is that right? Anyone? No. Oh, okay. But anyway, in the Monk Museum it's called the researchers. And I thought, well, I'm a researcher. That must be relevant to me, and it is, because this idea of exploring something like generative AI, I think, is genuinely like a kind of a generational step change, right? So I would say in my 29-year career with Kantar, there's been like 3 big steps, right? The first one was globalization. Everything was going global, and that was how we made a lot of money, by standardizing work around the world. Then it digitized, and that was cool because we could do internet research. That was quicker than talking to people on surveys offline. And then it was all kind of mobile social has been the third kind of wave. But this is genuinely, this is going to be a 10-year trend, right? This is not going to go away, and it's amazing. And so all the things that I think we're just scratching the surface on now, and there'll be OpenAI scandals and CEOs might come and go, and things will go terribly wrong, and there'll be all kinds of things that don't work. But fundamentally, once it comes out of its hype cycle, this is going to be the next biggest change in research and advertising by far. So you're going to need to get your systems and processes ready to deal with that, because just working with different data and getting new insights is not going to be good enough. You are going to need to really understand AI technology. So we work with a lot of companies to organize themselves so that they, as a consulting business, have they got the right strategy, not the right creative strategy, but have they got the right strategy for how they develop a strategy, how they test? Have they got the right tools and partners in place? Have they got the right structure in their organizations and how they work with their agencies? Have they got the right people? And are they going to need different people in the years to come? And have they got the right processes and checks and balance in place to ensure great quality? So this has always been something that's been important, but it's just about to get flipped on its head, because you're going to be able to develop ads in different ways and test them in radically different ways. So if you're not ready to consider that you might need a different way of working, then you could be in for a bit of a shock in the next few years. These are the kinds of things we do for clients, but all the questions we're getting about process right now are all kind of being shaken up by AI. So Shell worked with us on an integrated briefing process. Reckitt also want to make sure that they have insights in their creative briefs, not just a creative brief that's been made up by someone with an idea of what's important. Genuine human-based insights in creative briefs. Job to be done is something that Danone focused on. Jacobs Douwe books were all about this common process because they were lacking system. They were lacking the rigor in their process. So again, I wouldn't have normally said that this was the key to unlocking creative quality, but I think as things are going to be in turmoil in the next few years, this is something that every brand should be questioning whether they've got the right process in place. Generative AI is already starting to shape some of the advertising you're seeing. So now quite a lot of them is quite experimental at the moment, more kind of one-offs rather than like actually the core way that creative is being developed. But we thought we'd take some of the AI generated, either wholly or partially, ads and check whether they're any good or not. And we thought we'd do that by, these are machine enhanced ads, let's test them with our machine. So we put them through Link AI. And we were pleased, I guess, to see that 6 of the 9 that we tested did pretty well. So it's not like just the machines knock it out of the park every time, they can still get it wrong. But it did seem like there's some, that in itself is encouraging that machines seem to be able to help deliver good ads. I'll show you a few of the scores in a minute. There's obviously loads of different ways you can use generative AI, right? So the Pepperoni Hug Spot is I don't know if you've seen it. It's actually a terrible ad, but it's incredibly creative because it's 100% AI. The script, the visuals, everything was AI. And so although it's awful, it's genius. And it actually, as people watch it, or mostly they find it funny, our machine was able to also identify as that's a brilliant ad. It's structurally, it's great. It's got like a clear narrative. It comes to a clear conclusion, a clear reason to believe. It wouldn't actually go on air because it was A, for a made-up brand, but B, just a kind of weird, quirky images. But that had the potential structure to be turned into a really good ad. And this one here was the script was actually fully generated by AI for Lexus. They then added human production values on top. So that's 2 completely different routes. The one we'll look at, which is again because I'm kind of on an art journey, having been in all the museums this weekend. Let's start with a human-based script which they enhanced with all kinds of AI, and it's also it was very clearly called out as being a powerful, impactful ad which was not going to be skipped. I think that really is magic and magical, and just that's obviously high production values, and not everyone's going to have a Coke type budget, but that's genuinely groundbreaking. But you don't need to be using AI to create like an almost cinematic experience. You can be using AI in all kinds of different ways to improve creative. The conversation at Cannes this year around how AI should be, can be, will be changing creative was very varied. I think the providers of AI were obviously talking about it, but so were many advertisers. OpenAI talked about, don't worry, we're not out to kill humans. We need humans. It's the machines are a part of are going to enhance the creative process, not replace it. And they were talking about all the, they've got a lot of work still to do to put safeguards and around it so they can protect your brand IP and so on. So they were, I think, got the tone really right. Google were also talking very much about AI isn't the art. They've got all kinds of tools coming, but they should be working together. So I think there's enough checks and balances in the process. And Unilever were talking today about, they're not worried about AI. They are worried about brand differentiation though. And if AI lifts the way that they can do new and interesting things in their creative, then they seem to be all up for it. I also heard that was Cannes in the summer, in the autumn in de Mexico in Cologne, the global CMO of Nestle was talking about how you've got to give these machines something to work with, because if you try Gen AI out and the first attempt is rubbish, well, that's because you haven't learned how to do that prompt engineering. You've got to spend time playing with it, making it better. You've got to trust it with some of your data. Obviously, you've got to do that within a corporate environment, so then your IP isn't leaking out into the system. But she was talking about how it's only when they started to feed the machine really insightful stuff that they knew from their survey research about what consumers thought of their brand and the job to be done. The more they gave it, the more helpful the outputs were. So we've started playing with this a bit ourselves. These are some examples of, as you start to use these tools, just how much, this isn't bad. That might start to spark a few ideas about what you need to do in your next campaign. But, this is the kind of prompt engineering that gets you to something which is closer to what you really need and want. Again, that may not be the finished ad. This could all just be part of the ideation inspiration process. It doesn't have to be that you don't then go away and then do a proper shoot and try and replicate that and build on it with real human creativity on top. But that's a pretty good start to a campaign if that's the kind of thing you need in your ad. We're also quite excited about this idea of creative shaping, but not just shaping for the sake of it, shaping based on what your objective is. So this is not an available product yet, but something we are playing with. So this is a draft script for an imaginary ice cream brand, which, so human start point. But we've got loads and loads of creative learnings over the years about what improves things. And so if you did some testing on this and said, well, actually the problem is that the branding's not great there. We don't just know, we know lots of drivers of branding. So we can create prompts and engineering challenges for these tools. So generative AI can then change it from that to this. Now this isn't, again, trying to take the creative agency's job. This could be that suddenly the man's face is a mischievous grin. Suddenly, rather than a story about he ate some ice cream, he's sharing an intriguing secret. And suddenly, this goes from being just him talking about how much he likes the ice cream to helping you discover your ritual about how you are going to enjoy this, get sucked into want to understand this secret yourself. Now, this was one of several creative shaping inspirations that the machine threw back to us. And I guess this is, if your agencies aren't already playing with this, then they should be. We would like to try and help them come up with these inspirations that take them towards what will be likely better and more effective outcomes. More pragmatically, we're also seeing this as a huge efficiency driver. So we generate loads of data with our reports, and generative AI helps us sift through that. So we're going to be launching very shortly these automated headlines here, AI generated, AI flagged, because obviously we want you to know when the machine did the work rather than a human. But we'll be summarizing results in our dashboards with generative AI quite soon, and synthesizing the themes using generative AI as well, because these days, even if you can do the research really quickly, open-ended questions takes a few days for people to code. The AI theme generation from generative AI is amazingly good. So these are kind of some pragmatic efficiency gains that we had as well, but I'm, I guess, more excited about how it's going to actually change the creative development process. So back to our 3 challenges and opportunities. Be trendy, but don't get dragged away from the fundamentals by the trends. Always go back to a big idea, because that's where the key consistent differentiation comes from, and that will get you the attention you really need. And then, but challenge yourself about how you can deal with the scale opportunity, not by failing to test loads more stuff than you ever used to, but by embracing AI as a complementary way to enhance that. And I think, in the Norwegian market, I know a lot of the testing is post-testing at the moment. The earlier the better. Early stage is good. If you can do that as with a finished film ad before you go live, great. If you can test that as an animatic or a storyboard stage, even better. And then I guess be open to change, right? We're all I'm long in the tooth, but I'm looking forward to how generative AI is going to change out the way we work quite fundamentally for the next, hopefully, decade or more. Should keep me going through till retirement. Okay, so that's it. We've obviously got loads more to share today, but we'll be around for questions afterwards as well.
Okay, thank you, Duncan. I think this is working now. Ja. Det er jo tydelig at AI kan jo påvirke måten vi jobber med reklame og kommunikasjon på, sånn som vi så nå. Men så er det jo som nevnt her også noen advertising fundamentals, noen ting som ligger til grunn for det vi kaller for kraftfull kreativitet, som vi må fortsette å være gode på. Så jeg tenkte å dele nå noen av de hemmelighetene, noe som de som får til dette på, er gode på. Og den første hemmeligheten er å være distinkt. Så det handler jo om å skille seg ut fra annen reklame og stå ut i mengden. Så det er veldig mange måter å gjøre dette på. Det vil se også, det er ikke noe fasitsvar egentlig hvordan man skal gjøre det, men det handler om å bruke humor for eksempel, ha en følelsesladet storyline som man engasjerer seg i. Det å bruke musikk kan være noe, sånn som vi så på KFC-reklamen. Eller det kan være sånn som her, at man har noen kreative grep eller kreative virkemidler, sånn som fargebruk, klipping, pacing, grafikk, som vi skal se her, som også kan brukes til å skille seg ut. Og så en annen del er jo det å være distinkt fra andre merker, at man har en unik merkeidentitet som er gjenkjennbar og som står ut i mengden. Så har vi et eksempel fra Starbucks Chilled Coffee her. Det er en utendørsreklame og en digital reklame som begge kom høyt opp i vår Effectiveness Awards, som gjør det her veldig godt. Når vi ser på reklamen, så er det ikke noen tvil om at det er Starbucks som står bak. Så jeg skal vise digitalreklamen nå. Den er jo ganske kort, men den er veldig effektiv, og den bruker de sekundene den har gått, så det er ikke noe krav at det må være lange filmer heller. Den andre hemmeligheten er å integrere merkevaren godt. Så det handler om å integrere merkevaren i storyline, og gjøre merket til helten, som vi ofte sier hvis de har vært i møte med oss. Og integrere gjennom hele reklamen, men også særlig på de punktene i filmen, de øyeblikkene som er mest minneverdige, og som er det som folk tar med seg og husker best. Så hvis vi ser her, så har vi eksempel på det, reklame på 30 sekunder TVC, hvor 5% av den reklamen står for 45% av recall. Så er det veldig viktig at merket er til stede på de 5 sekundene. Så det er en måte å gjøre det på. Så er det sånn som kreativ tilnærming som er konsistent over tid, er jo også viktig. Bruke merkemarkører og så videre. Men vi ser at de reklamene som scorer best hos oss, og som evalueres som best, er de som klarer å virkelig integrere merket i historien. Jeg har et eksempel på noen som har fått til dette veldig godt, og som bruker merket gjennom hele reklamen, og spesielt på det øyeblikket som folk mener at de husker best fra reklamen. Så dere kan se på reklamen, og etter å ha sett den, så kan dere tenke på hva dere husker best, og hvilken rolle Twinings, merkevaren, hadde i det øyeblikket. Jeg har testet det på veldig mange personer, og alle sier det samme hittil, så jeg skal ikke spørre noe om vi kan snakke om det i et seminar hvis man vil.
Bienvenida. Bienvenidos al mundo de Twinings.
å tenke litt. Tredje hemmeligheten å bygge meningsfylt annerledes assosiasjoner, som ble nevnt her av Duncan i stad, og det å få en meningsfylt annerledes posisjon. Fra vår merkevare research så vet vi at forbrukere velger de merkene som de har en meningsfylt tilknytning til, og vi har funnet 3 nøkkelkomponenter hos sterke merkevarer. Den første at de oppleves som meningsfulle, at de møter behovene til folk, og at man føler en emosjonell tilknytning til merket. Det andre at de oppleves som annerledes enn andre merker. De føles forskjellige, eller unike eller trendsettere i sin kategori. Det siste at de mentalt tilgjengelige, og så dukker de lett opp i minnet når man i en relevant kjøps- eller brukssituasjon. Og hvor viktig de forskjellige dimensjonene det kan variere på tvers av kategori. Og det vet vi mye om, så bare spør oss om det hvis dere lurer på det. Men det i hvert fall disse 3 nøkkelkomponentene vi har funnet som felles for sterke merkevarer. Så det veldig viktig at kommunikasjonen også bygger disse meningsfylt annerledes assosiasjonene. Og så det klart man kan komme ganske langt med til å bygge på mental tilgjengelighet, at man distinkt, ref. Punkt 1, og at man har en tydelig kobling til merkevaren, punkt 2. Men hvis man vil forsvare prispremium eller øke markedsandel, så vet vi at det viktig å gjøre merket meningsfylt annerledes i hodene til folk. Og da må kommunikasjonen også hjelpe til med det. Nytt eksempel, det fra en såkalt home improvement-kjede i New Zealand, som vant i vår Effectiveness Awards i fjor, som gjør dette her veldig godt. Bygger meningsfullhet, man viser et vennskap, og at man merker til å stole på. Men det føles også annerledes ved at det bryter litt med noen stereotypier, blant annet. Kan vi se på den?
Got a level?
No.
Need a drill?
Yes.
Huh, let's get a trolley.
Yeah, let's get one of these.
No.
Here you go.
He's good, man. He's good.
Oh, thanks for that.
All right.
Okay, yeah.
So good.
So it's finished then.
Fjerde hemmeligheten å trigge emosjoner og vekke følelser. Og jeg vet at det å vekke følelser et veldig kraftfullt virkemiddel i kommunikasjon. Som vi ser her, så det de reklamene som frembringer mest følelser, som de som får den største effekten. Og jeg vet at de får mer oppmerksomhet, de blir bedre husket, og så bedre på å bygge de meningsfylte assosiasjonene. Og her også mange forskjellige måter å gjøre det på. Det kan være emosjonelle storylines, det kan være noe som har en emosjonell relevans, eller det kan være å bruke humor, som også noe som vi kanskje ikke har sett så veldig mye i det siste, men som begynner å være på vei opp igjen, sånn som Duncan var inne på. Så har vi et eksempel fra vår norske kåring, Nora Syltetøy fra Orkla Foods, som bruker humor veldig godt, og det bruker også et annet virkemiddel som effektivt, og det nostalgi. Vekker veldig mye følelser hos de som ser den. Så da kan vi se den.
Nora syltetøy, så godt som hjemmelaga.
Og den siste hemmeligheten, det å lytte til forbrukerne, eller lytte til målgruppen. For det jo de som den viktigste mottakeren av reklame. Det ikke oss som sitter her i dag, i hvert fall ikke de rollene vi har her i dag. Så det det viktig å vite hvordan de opplever reklamen. Altså, kommer merket tydelig nok frem? Skiller det seg ut fra annen reklame de ser? får de med seg budskapet og trigger den direkte følelsene. Så det bringer meg over i siste punkt på agendaen i dag. Og det handler om innsikten som kan hjelpe med å styrke den kreative kvaliteten. Og vi mener jo at noe av det beste man kan gjøre for å sikre at kommunikasjonen er kraftfull nok, er å preteste, altså å evaluere og gjøre optimaliseringer før kampanjen går live. Så vi er jo veldig enige i det sitatet her. Slutt aldri med å teste, og reklamen din vil aldri slutte med å bli bedre. So, I'm going to hand over to Duncan again, who will take you through one of our best-in-class solutions for doing this.
Testing. Okay, cool. Okay, so you want some kraftfull kreativitet or some powerful creativity. You will be needing a powerful creative testing tool. Fortunately for you, I've been working quite hard for the last few years to try and change something that has been fairly static for the last few years. So the big evolution for us in the last, I guess, decade was online testing and then making that automated testing available at speed. So for the last, I think it's 5 or 6 years now, we've been able to say we can do an ad test for you in 24 hours, which is brilliant. But the problem was you then had to make a choice of, do you want this ad test or this ad test? We had a small and a medium-sized versions. Or do you want to change any of those questions? And if so, that'll take you like maybe a week. And people were kind of stuck with this, I'll need it in a day, but I'll have to take what you've got. What we've been working on the last couple of years is making all the flexibility you had when you used to do them through non-automated tests available within that same short testing time period. So Link Plus is the answer. So we would say it's the most powerful way to make your creative work. What it really means for you as the researcher is you do not need to trade off customizing an ad test to your exact specifications, to your campaign needs and objectives, and you can still get it as fast as one of the standardized tests that we've been producing for many years. So that's pretty cool. And in doing so, you don't have to give up any of these confidence that the metrics that you've got in this test will increase your sales and build your brand. So we spend a lot of time. Power in Link Plus language is all about putting the tools in your hands so that you can develop the most impactful creative. Sometimes you'll need lots and lots of executional diagnosis. Sometimes you'll just need a little bit of that, and you'll need a really granular understanding of how people are, whether they do take the message out or whether they think it's persuasive or not. So that's the power element. The speed is that we haven't messed up the fact that you can do these in 24 to 48 hours because it runs through our marketplace platform, and the trust is all the validations that link this through to sales effectiveness or to long-term brand building. And this is just to give you a flavour of the kind of tools you've got to play with. This is already drilled down. So the pluses are, you can start with this basic core. You've got the standard metrics in Link, that core across the top there is in every study. But then on top of that, you can choose whether you do need to understand, all right, I've got a brand new message. I want people going into the stores, and I need to understand, is that message relevant, believable, credible, different? Then you can have a persuasion diagnosis. Or this time, actually, I'm really worried about the branding in the ad because our previous campaign didn't work very well because of branding. Have we got the branding exactly right? What are the brand cues? You can have a whole bunch of diagnostic questions for that. We've got this ready and live and working here in Norway for TV ads, also for earlier stage animatics and storyboards. And in just another few weeks' time, we'll have this ready for digital ads, YouTubes and Facebooks and so on. So that's cool. Within the facial coding element that we're going to hear a bit about today, you've got both emotion measures and upgraded attention measures as well. We'll talk a little bit about that. So all this flexibility is available to without sacrificing speed. And I think that's a big step forward. There are lots of other automated tests out there in the marketplace, but none of them have this degree of flexibility. I think it's back now to Heidi for the final section.
Ok. Vi tenkte bare å gå gjennom noen av de spennende tingene vi kan bruke Link Plus til, så jeg egentlig tenkte å dykke litt mer ned i den delen her som du så, som het facial coding, emotion og attention. Hvordan vi kan måle følelser og oppmerksomhet fra reklamen. Og det jo sånn, vi bruker spørreskjema, så bruker vi gjerne system 2-tenkning, så kjenner dere det. Vi har system 2 som rasjonelt, langsomt og gjennomtenkt. Du får holdningsinnsikt, men vi tenker jo også med system 1-tenkning, altså det som intuitivt og raskt. Så det vi ønsker å gjøre å kombinere det beste fra de to verdenene, få holdninger, men også den umiddelbare responsen til reklamen. Om reklamen vekker følelser, hvilke, og hvilken oppmerksomhet får den. Så først, facial coding kan vi bruke til å forstå, for det første om reklame vekker noen følelser i det hele tatt, men også hvilke følelser i så fall. Så vi så litt av det i stad, men her kan vi se output, så vi får utviklingen i følelser gjennom scenen, sekund for sekund. Og rent praktisk hvordan dette gjøres, at vi har respondenter som vi spør om vi kan ta opp ansiktet deres når de ser på reklamen. Så tolker vi dette, så får vi de forskjellige følelsene gjennom filmen. Og vi fanger opp alt fra glede til sinne, til overraskelse, redsel og så videre. Veldig mange følelser. Så her har vi et eksempel fra Legoland, hvor vi ser mye smil i den grønne linjen, og en del overraskelse også i den blå linjen. Og så ser vi jo noen høydepunkter her egentlig. Vi har her på starten, og så litt lenger ut i reklamen. Det sier oss jo at, hvis du tenker tilbake på disse hemmelighetene, at merket må være veldig godt integrert på disse punktene, fordi det dette som sannsynligvis folk kommer til å sitte igjen med etter å ha sett reklamen, og det de husker best. Vi kan også forstå hvilke elementer i reklamen det som vil tiltrekke seg mest oppmerksomhet. Så i varmekart så det jo de delene med rødt som mest sannsynlig til å tiltrekke seg oppmerksomhet. Så ser vi det også med sånn tåkekart, hvor vi bare ser de delene som målgruppen sannsynligvis vil legge merke til, mens alt det rundt vil de kanskje sannsynligvis ikke se. Så på dette eksempelet her så det jo på siden og i hjørnene. Og som ble nevnt tidligere her, så dette det AI-basert prediktiv eye-tracking. Det ikke faktisk eye-tracking, men det maskinlæring basert på et datasett med veldig mange reklamer som vi har gjort dette på. Så vi treffer med veldig høy nøyaktighet. Og her også så det veldig viktig at man til stede på de delene som folk sannsynligvis vil legge merke til. Mer om oppmerksomhet. Det jo et veldig viktig tema, at reklamen klarer å fange folks oppmerksomhet. Vi kan forstå den totale graden av aktiv og passiv oppmerksomhet. Vi har det som heter, det blir litt teknisk, men det som heter playback, som at reklamen spiller av på skjermen, man ikke skipper ut eller scroller ut. Passiv oppmerksomhet i det gule, som at man ser på reklamen. Og i blått aktiv oppmerksomhet at man følelsesmessig engasjert i reklamen. Så her igjen bruker facial coding for å få denne innsikten. Og så vet vi jo at det spesielt viktig i digitale kanaler, at man klarer å stå ut også fra annen reklame, men også alt annet innhold som i sosiale medier og andre digitale kanaler, og at man får den oppmerksomheten. Så det vi gjør når vi tester digitale reklamer på link, det at vi tester reklamene i kontekst. Det vil si at vi bruker teknologi til å plassere reklamen på Instagram eller på en Facebook-feed. Respondentene går inn, og de ser på de sidene som de vanligvis ville gjort. Så da vil vi fange opp graden av oppmerksomhet også på digitale reklamer i kontekst. Og da får vi sånn som det her, se på grafen, utviklingen av oppmerksomhet gjennom reklamen sekund for sekund. Vi kan se hvor stor oppmerksomheten får totalt sett, men også hvordan det utvikler seg, og hvor folk mister fokus og dropper av. Og om oppmerksomheten utvikler seg også gjennom reklamen. Så kommer som nevnt til Norge 24.11. Ja. Også ble nevnt, så vet vi jo at det vanskelig å finne tid til å teste, særlig før kampanjen. Men vi jobber for at tid ikke skal være noen hindring. Av og til leverer vi resultater i dashboard, fra 24 timer etter feltstart, så at man skal ha tid til å gjøre de optimaliseringene man ønsker før kampanjestart. Og vi har jo også Link AI, som ble nevnt, hvis man ikke har 24 timer engang, som kan gi en pekepinn. Ok. Dagen i dag oppsummert. AI gir oss nye måter å jobbe med reklame og med kommunikasjon på. Men det er fortsatt noen hemmeligheter eller fundamentale ting som må være på plass for å oppnå effekt. Og for å sikre nok kraft i kommunikasjonen så er det lurt med innsikt og særlig pretesting for å gjøre de siste optimaliseringene, så at man sikrer at man har nok kraft i kommunikasjonen. Takk. Takk. Vi har 10 minutter igjen, så vidt jeg kan se. Hvis noen har noen spørsmål. We're just saying, if they have any questions, we have 10 minutes left.
Jeg har et spørsmål hvordan måle språket, altså språkformen som brukes.
It's a question about how we measure the type of language that is used in...
Yeah, so not language as English and Norwegian, but the atmosphere in the language. Can you see if it's efficient? Mm-hmm. You know, if you choose an attitude, is it possible to measure it?
Within the survey or the AI tool?
Within the AI tooling, yeah, so you could check out different attitude in talking or message before you go live. Or tone of voice.
Tone of voice.
Yeah.
So I think it, if you've created... Should I stand up? So tone of voice is obviously, if you've created multiple versions of the same ad, you can run them all through AI. The way the AI testing tool works is it translates every language back to English. As it's kind of training data set, and then but it's got translation tools in it. So there is a danger that if you're looking for really fine nuances in a local language, that it wouldn't be able to pick those up. It's mainly going to be looking at what the overall patterns are in the language, the structure of it, whether there's too many words, too few words. So I think at that point, if you're into real nuance, you would need to be putting it either into survey testing or exploring it, that kind of topic in qualitative. Mm.
Bare å komme og snakke med oss hvis du vil det, eller så er det lov å gå hjem. Takk for oss.